bitches go.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Canelo Alvarez and Ryota Murata have reportedly reached a deal to fight next. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. We working. Also, sign up for ESPN Plus below using my link. It definitely helps the channel. Now, very interesting news. I've been talking about this. This has been rumored. Forbes.com is now reporting that Canelo Alvarez versus Ryota Murata is done. Deal is reportedly done. Date and location revealed. And let's go through this. Per multiple Japanese news outlets, Canelo Alvarez and Ryota Murata have agreed to fight on May 24th, May 23rd in the United States, in Japan at the Saitama Super Arena. No sparring translated the Japanese text from the Yahoo Japan article. Says Canelo versus Murata has been agreed for Sunday, May 24th, Saturday, 23rd in the U.S. and will be held at the Saitama Super Arena, site of Inoue's last fight. He fought Donaire at the World Boxing Super Series. Tokyo Dome is occupied and potential Mayweather return clouds Cinco de Mayo date, Yahoo Japan reports. And they linked it. Said the 29-year-old Canelo is the reigning WBA Super World middleweight champion, and the 34-year-old Murata is the second title holder with that governing body. From that standpoint, the fight makes sense, but Murata is not the sort of name that will resonate with the American fight fans. Despite winning a gold medal at the 2012 London Olympics and signing with Top Rank Boxing back in 2013, splitting fights with Rob Brandt and dethroning the American via TKO in July 2019, Murata is still relatively unknown in the States. Also, having the fight in Japan may serve as a bigger disconnect for Canelo's Mexican and American fans who aren't likely to be making that trip. However, that's where DAZN will come in. Streaming service has exclusive rights to Canelo's fights in the United States, and that is how a vast majority of his fans will have to see this fight. Canelo's obviously the A side in the negotiations. So why travel to Japan to fight Murata in his backyard? The opportunity to fight in Japan is likely a very lucrative one for Canelo. Floyd Mayweather, whose potential return may have pushed Canelo off his traditional Cinco de Mayo date, made a fortune in the exhibition fight with Tenshin Nasukawa December 2018 in the same arena. The WBA connection, the assumed favorable matchup, and the lure of money available on top of Canelo's DAZN agreement could have been the factors that help the Mexican superstar choose Murata over opponents like Dimitri Bivol, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Smith. Whatever the case, expect boxing fans to become more acquainted with the Japanese star in the months and weeks leading up to the late May showdown. And this article is from Brian. My thoughts, horrible. I told you, Canelo's star power continues to dwindle. It's sad, really. It's sad to see Canelo as the face of boxing at one point. After Mayweather, he didn't, get the torch passed to him by beating Mayweather, but he claimed he wanted the Mexican dates, and he's of Mexican heritage, obviously from Mexico, Guadalajara. And look at Canelo. Like, let's just run down it real quick. 2018, he failed a drug test, clenbuterol. So his Cinco de Mayo week fight was canceled with Golovkin. He didn't get fined, but he was suspended. So in that suspension, he couldn't fight for 6 months. So he couldn't fight 2018 Cinco de Mayo because whatever his reason was, he had clenbuterol in his system, right? So he couldn't fight. That's Cinco de Mayo 2018. Then the next year, 2019, he did fight on Cinco de Mayo against Danny Jacobs. To me, the fight didn't really live up to expectations, but it was still a unification, and it was good to see, that they at least, figured out the middleweight division and try to reduce the belts. But then September, he wanted to come back for the quote unquote Mexican dates again, Mexican Independence Day in America. And he had prolonged negotiations that really went nowhere. They weren't willing to pay Sergey Kovalev what he wanted. You know, Kovalev's name was really out of like nowhere. Nobody had really asked Canelo to move up to 175 or do this and that. But for whatever reason, he wanted to fight Kovalev so bad. And they negotiated for weeks and weeks. And I was making videos, if you guys remember, and I'm like, man, this is taking a long time. If they're going to be fighting on the quote unquote Mexican date, second week of September 14th, 15th ish, then they got to get it cracking, because how are they going to promote the fight? And they waited. They had this stalemate, wouldn't pay Kovalev what he wanted. And Kovalev was like, yo, I'm a light heavyweight champion. I beat your promoter, Bernard Hopkins. I have a good resume. I fought Olympic gold medalist Andre Ward twice. Some people would even argue I beat him once, things of that sort. So he's like, how did Jacobs get 12 million and y'all trying to give me less than that, half of that, or whatever they offered him the first time? He's like, no sirree, Bob. And the negotiations continued to drag on. And I ain't talking about Rough Riders, but eventually it got to the point where Main Event's Top Rank and Kovalev, they had to pull out of negotiations because they were already ordered to fight before that Anthony Yard. And yeah, Anthony Yard had been waiting patiently, and he was getting tired of waiting. His team was getting tired of waiting, and Kovalev was a champion, so he had obligations, and it wasn't really going anywhere with Canelo. So he had to deal with Anthony Yard in place. So they said, hey, if Kovalev wins that fight, then we'll revisit the Canelo. But Canelo, his team didn't give in. Their bluff was called, and Kovalev went on to fight Anthony Yard. Now, the bad side of that for Canelo is you have Kovalev, who almost got stopped in the 9th round, and his own trainer, Buddy McGirt, new trainer, says, if you give me another round like that, I'm throwing the towel in. Because he recently had a fighter die before that, Maxim Dadashev. He's like, I don't like how you were looking. You almost got stopped. Another round like that is over. So he looked very vulnerable, even though he came back and stopped Anthony Yard. And that was a step up, a major step up in class for Anthony Yard. And he did very well, you know. So when Canelo, by the time he went to fight Kovalev had a quick turnaround, and he looked very vulnerable and definitely didn't look like the crusher since Andre Ward, but definitely getting almost stopped by Anthony Yard. And this is the big fight that they were trying to, big historic fight. And you've seen at the fight week, it felt dry for a Canelo fight standards. The weigh-in looked empty. And then what made it worse is they waited for UFC 244 to conclude before Canelo would go on, because DAZN knew their main event, because whatever reason they decided to schedule it against Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, who had already taken that date. But Canelo wanted the date too, and Canelo got his way. And, that date, they were overshadowed by a bigger combat sports fight that people actually wanted to see in its respective sport, which was Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, with The Rock presenting them the BMF belt, and they were playing the fight in the arena, even though DAZN, just to see DAZN cameras showing a UFC fight on TV, and that's supposed to be their competitor to Bellator. It was a horrible look. They showed Canelo warming up and then sitting on a couch waiting for another event to end so he can go out, and he had to re-warm up. Kovalev was on the couch sleeping. So that was almost the beginning of the end. And I told you guys, Canelo is no longer the face of boxing. Face of boxing wouldn't do that. They would never make Floyd Mayweather wait for a UFC fight or a Bellator fight or a golf tournament, something like that. Especially in combat sport, especially if it's a competitor, they wouldn't do that to Floyd Mayweather. But they did it to Canelo, and that hurt. And the Kovalev fight, it wasn't really eventful for 10 rounds. And then out of nowhere, Kovalev gets hit with the shot around the guard. His eyes are closed and he gets knocked out completely wide open. It just looked FAF, like I've been telling you. So that was the second Mexican date, second week of September, Mexican Independence Day. So let's recap. 2018, he didn't fight Cinco de Mayo. He was scheduled to fight Golovkin in a rematch. Didn't fight the rematch because he failed to drug test clenbuterol. That's 2018, May 2018. 2019, he failed to land the Kovalev fight, the first negotiations, the first time, in time to have the fight for September, second week of September. So Mexican Independence Day, he didn't have a fight, so they pushed it back to November, right? And Kovalev in between that fought Yard and almost got stopped. So that's the second Mexican date. So this is the guy who says, hey, this is my heritage. He tried to beat Floyd, lost horribly, lost every round, and wanted to claim those dates for back-to-back years. He didn't give you those dates that he said he wanted. He's the one that said, not ego. So that was 2018, 2019. Now you mean to tell me, this is why I said it's a bad look. For the third year, the 2 dates that he wanted, 2 calendar that he screamed and claimed that he wanted, he's not willing to fight. He might fight Ryota Murata at the end of the month because Floyd Mayweather may be coming back. Bad look, people. That's so for the third year in a row, Canelo has had to back off the date that he said he wanted. He said, these are my dates now. So that just goes to show you they don't have an event that is adequate. Why would you bow down to Mayweather? He's not even an active fighter, you know, because you know his event's going to be bigger than yours. Especially, you know, a fight like Ryota Murata, you can't bring that into the States and expect to do crazy numbers. So I guess their thinking is we'll just get a large site fee and, you know, up to 50,000 people I think can go in that stadium. So we'll just make some money that way. But, you know, it's a bad look. And it's sad to see Canelo's career has been stifled ever since DAZN. He's making great money, which is good for him on a personal tip. But these fights aren't legacy fights. They're trying to like make their own history, things of that sort. And it's a bad look because just so many ways you could dissect it. For the third year, if this is true, and he fights Ryota Murata at the end of the month, he's giving up the Mexican dates for a third year in a row, even though he said these are my dates and I'm the Mexican guy, right? You'd be bound down to Floyd Mayweather, and in essence, PBC. You're taking Canelo out of his primary market. There's 2 regions where Canelo has been massively successful and established. His second home, America, where he lives, and he has a home in Mexico, I believe, and where he's from. Those that Mexico and America are by far the 2 biggest regions for Canelo fights thus far. And you mean to tell me DAZN decided to take him out of that market and put him in Japan, you know? And it's just a bad look. DAZN, Eddie Hearn was talking about raising the price to $50 a month. Good luck with that. You know, Eddie Hearn and DAZN, they're saying pay-per-view's dead and all that. I haven't really heard it recently, and I think we know why. But your guy who was on pay-per-view, his star power looks like it's shrinking, and his fights keep getting lesser and lesser and less. It's like it's becoming harder to even follow Canelo. You know how hard you're making it for American media to all go to Japan to cover this fight in fight week. It's not likely. A couple people might go, but you know, you're taking him and pulling him out of his market, I guess, for the almighty dollar. So it's a bad look if this happens. But Canelo I told you the same stuff. It's crazy and uncanny how accurate I've been with this whole situation. People got mad. The Canelo Man fans were mad at me and stuff like that. But you tell me this is a good look and this is a good fight. The other issue is Canelo fought at 175, told you he wasn't going to stay up there. 6 weeks later, he announces that Golden Boy sends a press release to all the media people and announces he's gotten rid of the belt he just got by beating Kovalev, even though his team said Kovalev's better than Beterbiev and he looked great in his last fight. Why not try to fight Beterbiev or Bivol, who's been calling you out? So he dropped that belt, another bad look. He was a franchise champion at 160 and Jamal Charlo became the full body champion because he didn't want to fight Charlo. Bad look. You got Andrade, who fights on DAZN, and he's fighting Lucas Potato Peeler, and he can't get a Canelo fight. And they said Canelo might not be able to make 160, the division he said he wanted to unify, even though he lost another belt by not agreeing to give Derevyanchenko money and getting the Derevyanchenko fight over the line. And then Golovkin later fought him, and he really should have lost to him. You know, it's just a horrible look for DAZN. Back to back. I told you DAZN curse is just back to back things. So Canelo and Derevyanchenko, that would have been a good fight. You know, Derevyanchenko comes to fight, but your team couldn't get that over the line, and he ends up fighting Golovkin and whooping him and getting robbed, and you lose that belt. And now you're gonna go fight for a secondary belt against Ryota Murata, from what all the reports are saying. And these are supposed to be people that are on the Japanese side or on Ryota Murata's team that are saying this is a done deal and things like that, and they're reporting it to Japanese outlets and media. I mean, no way you can slice this and make this look advantageous for Canelo's career or DAZN. You know, even putting the fight so it coincides, like putting it in Sunday morning in Japan so it comes on at Saturday night. It's not just about being during primetime hours. It's about Canelo being in a fight that people actually care for and want to see him fight, you know? And then on top of that, you're bowing down to this man on screen, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, he comes back and then you jump off the dates. That means you're not messing with Floyd. He just proposed that he was coming back. I don't know who he's fighting. Golden Boy don't know who he's fighting. We don't know if he's fighting on that date, but you don't even feel strong enough to keep that date. And the third year you're losing the Mexican date, you know, and again, you just came from 175 back down to 160. You could fight everybody but Charlo, everybody but Andrade, who's aligned with DAZN. I mean, these are easily ready-made fights for American fans, and you would rather fight Ryota Murata? I mean, Canelo's making it extremely, him and his team, they're making it extremely hard to defend this behavior. It's almost like they're trying to write fake history, and I think this is going to hurt Canelo's stock again because he keeps doing these decisions. And I don't want to hear nothing from his team about, oh, people are hating and stuff like that. The Canelo man fans, oh, Canelo, get your bread. But a lot of the same fans didn't say this when Floyd Mayweather was making more money than Canelo and making the most money in boxing. They're saying, oh, Floyd, he just cares about money, and they are making it sound like it's a bad thing. So now if Canelo makes money moves or whatever he feels is a business move, even though it doesn't really benefit the sport of boxing, the man fans are going to find a way, old media is going to find a way to try to defend the behavior, you know. But like I've been saying, the three options that Canelo was slated to fight or rumored to fight, they were all doomed. Billy Joe Saunders, he fought on a YouTube undercard, two YouTubers, Logan Paul, KSI rematch. He fought on the undercard to that against the unknown Marcelo Esteban Corceles, and he did not look good in that fight. He did get a stoppage in the 11th round, but you can easily say he was losing that fight to an unknown guy. So that was one of the names. That, you know, if you're fighting Billy Joe off of that performance, that wouldn't have been a good look. Caleb Smith really should have lost to John Ryder and got saved on the judges' scorecards, but John Ryder really beat him, and John Ryder lost to Rocky Fielding, a guy Canelo beat. You see where I'm going? And then now you have Ryota Murata. He out of the three guys, he probably looked the best in his last fight, because I think his last fight was the Rob Brandt stoppage. But it's still not, it's a guy with like 16, 17 fights or so, 18 fights, unknown in America. And I don't understand DAZN's effort in America. Eddie Hearn saying we have an American takeover, you know, Golden Boy doing this to a former pay-per-view star, taking him off pay-per-view. Like I said, Eddie Hearn and DAZN saying bye-bye pay-per-view. And we got the American takeover. How are you going to keep selling the most non-American fights to Americans and expect to grow and get long-term subscribers? You're taking Canelo out of his market he's been fighting in since before, when he was fighting on Floyd undercards. He's been on, when he was an undercard fighter, he was fighting in America since he was 19. Now he's 30 and you don't know what to do with him. And now you're taking him to Japan. And again, it looks like just a money grab move. It don't look like he's doing it on his own, like own accord. He's like, he doesn't have many options. It's just it's a bad look, people. Any way you slice it's a bad look. Giving up the Mexican dates that he wanted so desperately, bowing out of May 5th is horrible. And you don't even know who Floyd is fighting or if he's going to come back. and then fighting Ryota and Murata, I don't know how that's going to fare with fans. He's not a name that's really known. They said the Jacobs fight did 600,000 concurrent viewers, right? And it wasn't even the most eventful fight. Then the Kovalev fight, they never released the numbers. You know, DAZN, you just have to guess around and assume how much numbers it did. But needless to say, the point I'm making is this: Jacobs and Kovalev were far more branded in America. Jacobs is American, and we've seen Jacobs fights. You know, I speak on behalf of Americans because I'm based out of America and I'm American, right? And we know who Jacobs is. He fought Quillin, fought Golovkin. So he fought Derevyanchenko. He fought on HBO. So we know him. He fought with PBC. We know who he is. Kovalev, same thing. He fought B-Hop in New Jersey. He fought Andre Ward on the West Coast twice in Vegas, right? He's been on HBO several times. So if the numbers with Jacobs were 600,000 concurrent, the numbers for the Canelo fight didn't come out, and you had to wait for UFC 244 to end so you can go up. What type of numbers are you going to get with an unknown guy like Ryota Murata? Ryota Murata fought in Vegas with Rob Brandt, and I don't know many people that were, you know, chomping at the bit to see that particular fight or went out and drove from LA to Vegas to go see that fight. It wasn't a big fight. So if there's branded guys that aren't doing the greatest numbers with Canelo on the DAZN app, again, American branded guys like Jacobs and Kovalev that we at least know about, then I think the Ryota Murata becomes an even tougher sell. You know, so they're just like destroying Canelo's brand with these moves if this is actually true. Taking him out of his market, third year in a row bowing out of the Mexican dates, and then doing it for Floyd, you know, who you're supposed to be the biggest star in the face of boxing. I told you, Wilder's the face of boxing. Wilder's about to fight Fury, the biggest fight of 2020 that has been scheduled. You know, so we'll see. We'll see if this is true, but this is Yahoo Japan. Here's the article. And if you speak Japanese, you'll be able to see it. You know, we can translate it. But I'll put the link in the description. Ryota Murata decides he's fighting the strongest boxer in the world, Canelo. See, look, that's what they're calling him, Canelo. In the beginning, Canelo was set too high, so it was initially planned to compete with Golovkin, blah, blah, blah. So that's the article. Here's some of the other sources. Look, Asian boxing sources: Murata versus Canelo is a done deal. So this is what they're saying. We'll see if it's true, but I don't. At this point, I don't know who would be surprised if it is true. So, like I said, Canelo's star power is dwindling. These aren't the fights that I've heard people ask for, and this is what Golden Boy and DAZN keeps giving. So we'll see how it plays out. Let me know if you think this is a big fight. I can't wait to see the comments. I'm looking forward to the comments on this video. Let me know if Canelo's still the face of boxing. If him fighting in Japan is a good year. I can't wait to hear old media try to justify this and explain all the stuff that they allegedly like about this. But when Floyd Mayweather, it's funny, Floyd fights Berto, they said Floyd ruined the game. Floyd fights Conor McGregor, oh, this is horrible. But the same people, old media, are now supporting YouTube fights and YouTubers fighting, influencer fights. They're now supporting Mayweather. Berto, two-time champion, was the worst thing. But you're okay with Canelo versus Murata, Canelo versus Rocky Fielding, Triple G versus Steve Rolls and Camille Says Meta. Again, I just don't see the vision with DAZN, how you're planning on taking over America, putting Canelo, who's established in America, in Japan against an unknown name that Americans probably aren't dying to see. Putting Camille Says Meta and Triple G, these are all the rumored fights. Joshua, he's been on a huge downslide. He kind of fell off, you know, at least to American audiences. It's been real quiet for him since the Andy Ruiz fights, both of them, even the one he won, you know. So it's just weird to see how DAZN is managing the fighters and their star power. I just feel like a lot of the stars like Triple G, Canelo, and Anthony Joshua, their big three, all their star powers and profile are getting smaller and smaller, and it's really because of the matchups they're fighting. No one asked for the Kovalev fight. No one asked for the Ryota Murata fight. Why can't you fight Andre? You know, so Canelo, again, making it very hard for fans to come up with justifications for these fights and, you know, get excited for these fights. Let me know what you guys think. We unpacked. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.